I'm really curious about this. Despite your best efforts, why have US workers become so less productive? What's going on?
Yeah, so there's a post by the Washington Post, and basically what it was saying, I'm quoting verbatim here. It says, in the first half of 2022, productivity, the measure of how much output in goods and services an employee can produce in an hour, plunged by the sharpest rate on record going back to 1947, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So I believe we did a podcast episode maybe, I don't know, 2 months ago, where we talked about how there was research coming out how 2020 was one of the most productive years ever. And also 2021 early on seemed to be that way. And now this new report is now showing how 2022 is like arguably one of the worst years ever. And so I think if we look back, the pandemic moved a lot of things forward, like faster tech adoption, working from home, robotics, automation. A boom in productivity in those 2 years, 2020 and 2021, was a result of that, I think. But it seemed to be unsustainable. And that's something that I think you and I have talked about many times is when we're looking to make change, how do we do something so that it is sustainable? And it seems like whatever happened in the past like 18 months was just simply not. And then I think the other thing that was interesting in the article, they talked about quiet quitting, which is a term I've actually never heard. But basically, what it means is when they're talking about quiet quitting, especially if you're in a remote company, what it means is people tend to only do what is asked of them and expected of you and nothing more. When it comes to all the big tech companies, when a lot of the stocks are down, people are like being forced to do a lot more stuff, and people are now moving on, only want to do stuff that they're really passionate about. I can see how this quiet quitting is taking place as well. And I think another interesting thing in the report was how the CEO of Microsoft coined the term productivity paranoia, where managers are getting to a state where they're a little bit anxious about their employees and how they're working, if they actually are working, and they want to be able to track them and track their time, their activity. And I've had a few people who work in corporate America, and they always talk about how they have to move their mouse and stuff. So it seems like they're online, which is just crazy to me because that's something we don't even do. And we've been working online for, over a decade now. So I think it's just really interesting to see this. I'm not quite sure why the dip is happening, to be honest. Like they give some theories, but it's really hard to say why that is. But I wanted to bring that up because I personally haven't seen this, not that I've seen this in my circle of friends, that this is a conversation going on. So I'm curious to hear your take on this. What do you think is happening?
I was thinking about this the other day because I was thinking about how, like, my generation of workers tended to be our parents would, like you said, there's what's expected to you, but you would always go above that and you would always do what needed to be done and that type of thing. But I'm wondering about the next generation of workers who are now coming into the workplace, who have seen their parents in this default grind mode, who have seen their parents glued to their Blackberries at the dinner table, who have seen their parents miss soccer games and dance recitals, who have seen their parents kicked to the curb the second maybe the company's going to have a bad quarter and they just lay off a bunch of people, no matter how hard people work, no matter how loyal they've been, they've seen their parents get laid off and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if this is part of the reason for this, is that this newer generation of workers now have seen all this, and that's why quiet quitting does not surprise me at all, because if you've grown up seeing this happen to the generation just in front of you, why on earth would you like kill yourself for someone else that's going to have no loyalty to you at all? It's better to either work for yourself and take responsibility and where you get the benefit, or do this quiet quitting thing where, yeah, you'll do whatever it is you're asked to do, but if you think I'm working on evenings, weekends, that sort of thing, forget it. And I actually don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. So who knows, maybe this productivity drop on a macro level, maybe it's not such a bad thing. Maybe we were maybe we were overextended for a long time and now things are swinging the other way. I'm really curious about how this is going to go in the future. As for the productivity paranoia thing, yeah, this is something I've heard a lot. And this is something we heard especially during the pandemic when we were doing a lot of stuff with work from home. We did our courses and stuff like that about that. And this is one thing we heard from a lot of people is, yeah, they feel like they have to be present no matter what. They have to be green, have their status green in their Teams or Slack or whatever, and be responsive. And it makes it even worse. So productivity paranoia is an interesting thing, but I I like the distinction that the article made between activity and productivity, activity and results. And just because you're there moving your mouse and responding to questions doesn't mean that you're actually delivering results. I don't see how this lack of productivity and this productivity paranoia, like something has to give eventually. So this is going to be fascinating to watch. We'll have to do updates on this in the next coming months to see how this goes because something is going to give on one side of those things.